Hi everyone, so today we are talking all about thinness and why thin has always been in my opinion. And this is not the kind of video that it seems like it is. I don't want for thin to be in. I am only commenting on sort of what's happening and what I've been seeing over the past decade or so in culture, and maybe even 2 decades. Although, I don't know, I think that ages me, but whatever. The thing with thin is that there has been this huge push for body positivity, and rightfully so. There were a lot of unhealthy beauty standards in the 2000s that were just rampant, and a lot of young women and girls were unfairly targeted basically by these beauty standards, and they really felt very much like they had to be thin to be beautiful, and oftentimes too thin to a point of being unhealthy. Runway models were incredibly thin, and you would be hard pressed to find anyone who wasn't really very, very, very skinny and thin in high profile positions, in like on TV or anything like that, or in media overall, or in fashion, or in editorials, or in any sort of images of people wearing clothing. And now we've had this body positivity movement, which has been amazing because it's really brought a lot of awareness to different body shapes, that different shaped people exist, instead of just putting all of these people kind of out of sight, even though that's the majority of the population. This is what really strikes me as odd, is it's the majority of the population actually who is not always that thin. The majority of the population is certainly not extremely thin to a point where they're underweight. The majority of the population is average, or maybe even a bit heavier than average. So it's strange that we have just these very thin people who are in the limelight, and then we have everybody else. And so the body positivity movement has really moved to include more people, which has been amazing. Here is the thing though. I think, maybe controversially, that the body positivity movement it's done a lot, but ultimately I don't think that it completely succeeded. And the reason why it hasn't succeeded, and why it really will take a lot more than a body positivity movement for us to change these standards of thin, is because thin ultimately is a symbol of status. And the reason why it's a symbol of status is because it's difficult to get to be thin. It's just a difficult thing in our society to be thin. And oftentimes it's people who have a lot of resources and time on their hands to buy healthy food, to have people cook for them, to have people who are, helping them train, helping them go to the gym. And those are the things that make it easier for people in our society to be thin. Now, it wasn't always like this. And of course, this has been probably mentioned, and you've probably heard of this before, but during the Renaissance, it was not, and earlier times, like just even before the Renaissance, etc., it was not actually the beauty ideal to be thin at all. It was the beauty ideal to be a little bit more heavy. And a lot of those Renaissance paintings of women, you'll see that they are heavier, and they're curvy and heavy. Really pretty heavy, like some of them would be in the overweight category of BMI, even in the higher end of the overweight category of BMI. And they really looked pretty heavy by today's standards. And the thing is that they were considered to be beautiful. But why? Because it was a symbol of status to have enough food to look like that. And the other thing that is sort of interesting that I'm reminded of is, I believe in some cultures it was also a symbol of status to have lighter skin, because that meant that you did not work in the field, you stayed home. Now it's a symbol of status to have a tan, because that means that you have the money and the time to go on tropical vacations. Likewise, it's a symbol of status to be thin now, because it's just harder to be thin now. There's no shortage of food, and you know what? I am happy. I would much rather this be the case, and we all, we have enough food, and I hope, that continues, that trend continues, and we just experience more and more abundance in the world, than to be in a situation where the symbol of status is simply having enough food. Like that, I think would definitely be a worse situation for us to be in, unquestionably. So because thin is a symbol of status, that's why it's just difficult to move past that. We can have all the movements we want. We can have a body positivity movement all we want, but so long as thin is difficult to come by, and so long that it's difficult to be thin, and that's the difficult thing, that's the thing that takes the resources, that's the thing that takes time, that's the thing that takes a luxurious lifestyle, that's going to be the standard. And that's also why plastic surgery was so in for a while. You know, the Kim Kardashian look. You say, well, Miriam, what about the Kim Kardashian look? What about the Brazilian butt lift? Yeah, well, that's also a sign of status in a way. To get it done well, to get it done poorly is not a sign of status, but to get it done well, to have plastic surgery done very well and very carefully and very meticulously, is something that requires a lot of money and a lot of time. You need time to recover. You need money, of course, to get the plastic surgery done. And that is a sign of status as well, is that you have that kind of time, you have that kind of money, and you are willing to spend that money. And that's why plastic surgery was in. It all comes back to humans liking status and liking to portray status. And it doesn't really, I think that it doesn't always have to do only with an intolerance to certain looks, or an intolerance, which sort of the body positivity movement implied. It's not only about that, although it's partially about that. And there should be more tolerance for all kinds of different body types. There's no question there. The thing that ends up happening, though, is that because people value status, and we are a social species, we value status, then that's why being thin is going to be in for the foreseeable future, unless it becomes easy to come by. If something happens in society where being thin is just so easy for everyone, we'll finally have our body positivity dream, because we're really not, if anybody can attain any sort of shape that they want very, very easily, and it's no symbol of status to be thin or to be fat or to be curvy or to have a Brazilian butt lift or not, if it's not a symbol of status and all of those things are just in abundance and we can just snap our fingers, or with ease, anybody of any social status can simply access being any shape that they want, and it's just as easy for people who are wealthy and have status as for people who are underprivileged, that's when we are really going to see a true departure of those kinds of standards, those kinds of body standards. That's my thinking. That's my prediction. And I think it's possible. I think it's possible because, people are working on things to make it easier for people to, things are just becoming more accessible in general. Things are becoming more accessible as we look through the decades. Plastic surgery is more accessible to people now than it was probably 50 years ago. Different ways of weight loss, although not healthy, although maybe we don't get into that, are more accessible to people now than they were before. And, maybe we'll reach some other side where we just have access. We just all are able to benefit from access to all of these different methodologies to just choose more about our bodies, choose how we look. And then in that case, we actually probably will have, since status won't be tied to it anymore, since everybody will be able to access it, then we'll probably have more of this kind of diverse body types thing, and it's not really going to be such a sore point of discussion in society, and such a huge trend. Oh, now we're doing thin. Okay, well, now we're doing Brazilian butt lift, whatever. So I think that's my prediction, and I really think that's why the body positivity movement, even though it got us thinking about the topic, it didn't ultimately fully succeed, because as long as we have this situation where being thin is difficult, and it is, for a lot of people, then it's going to just be a sign of status to be thin. And that's why thin is in, and that's why thin has always been in. Even though we've had these movements and everything, thin has always been in. So yeah. So I think that's all I have to say, you guys. That's it. That's all I have to say. I was thinking to do a video on other things that are always in, like timeless beauty. I have a video about timeless beauty from a while back where I talk about how, well, I mean, I don't know if you're new here. You're probably not new here, if you're watching this kind of video, but if you are, most of my videos are about style. I'm a personal stylist, so most of my videos are not about being thin or fat or anything, and they're not even social commentary. They're about style. And so the way that I do style is I think about the timelessness of how certain things look on certain bone structures and colorations and things like that. And that's the thing, is that with these trends, just like with thinness, some things will always be in. Like complementary colors are always going to be in because they always look good. It doesn't matter what the trend is. And so that's kind of what I do, is I help people find what looks good on them that is not on trend or off trend. It's something that intrinsically looks good on them, on their bone structure, on their body type, on their coloration, their color type and everything. So that's what I do for a living, if you're new here and you don't know me. So I offer consults through my website. If you want to take a look around to see what kind of work that I do, take a look around the YouTube channel first and see if you like it, and see if you're interested in booking with me. You can take a look below to see what kinds of things I offer. I love to link below. If you're old here, leave me a comment and let me know how you liked this video. Do you like this kind of commentary video? Do you enjoy this kind of thing? Do you have any video ideas or any sort of commentary video ideas that you think I should touch on, that you'd be interested to see me cover? I would love to know. Leave me a comment below. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you next time. Okay,